To give you an idea of the last time I've used this boat, all the spider webs and this big guy that decided to make my boat his net. That is a big spider. I don't like that. Nice. Now today is the third or fourth day of fall, and I only have about 3 hours to go fish today. So what I'm gonna do is take the time to address what I feel is my top 5 lures that I'm gonna be choosing in the fall of the year. I'm gonna go out on Little Brookville Lake, call out and really go into detail on my top 5, then maybe see if I can catch a bass on them. Let's go. All right, so the wind keeps screwing with me and changing the lighting on me, so I'm gonna do this right here. Now, my top 5 fall baits, in order to understand my top 5, you have to understand the type of angler that I am. You know, I am 100% a power fisherman. I'm out, this is Brookville Lake around me. I suck at Brookville Lake, first to admit it. Reason being is that it's a highly pressured lake, it's clear water, and it's rocky. Tactics that do great here: finesse presentations like a drop shot, a tube, a shaky head. When I'm fun fishing, finesse fishing and slowing down to a snail's pace is not fun to me. When I go fun fishing, I like to try to catch them the way I like to catch them. And that's jerkbaits, crankbaits, flipping a jig. It's not the best here. So I excel here when it's cloudy, when it's windy, when the visibility's low, and fish get on a really good reaction bait bite. But I digress. My number 1 lure in the fall, as is the spring, is the jerkbait. Now, this is a lure that takes a good amount of confidence to get used to throwing, to get really good at. This is a Lucky Crab. This is actually a deep diver. This is a pointer, like 100 double D, something like that. But a jerkbait is something that takes a lot of confidence to get used to throwing and to get really, really good at. And my confidence in this lure really took form when I started using it for smallmouth fishing, because smallmouth, if they're in the right mood, will absolutely clobber a jerkbait, and not just one, many. I've gotten on the best bites I've ever gotten on in my whole life were smallmouth fishing on jerkbaits. And the key to this lure is, unless you're fishing super cold water and really slow pulling and twitching and trying to feed them, it's 100% a reaction bite. When I'm fishing this for smallmouth, largemouth, whatever it may be, I'm going after windy points, windy blown banks, and I am snapping this thing. When I'm jerkbait fishing, my wrist should kill within an hour or so in, because when I work it, if you've ever seen KVD or someone like that work a jerkbait, it's all in the wrist, but that rod is moving like big time. Like, they are making that lure completely dart and dance underwater, and that is 100% what you need to do. This is a reaction bite. You do not want to give them a long time to look at the lure. When they're feeding up on bait fish, a jerkbait is 100% my number 1 lure. And to follow that up, a lure that I use more to kind of cover water, but I also love, is a shallow to medium diving crankbait in the fall. This is a crankbait that I have gotten to love a lot. This is a Spro rock crawler. If you guys ever used those the original Wigglewort, stuff like that, this is a lure that is very similar. You know, it'll run, I can fish in 5 foot of water, or I can fish it all the way down to 10, and it does a very, very good job of not getting hung up on rocks for me. I like using this when it's windy as well, but a lot of times when I'm fishing rocks, this is what I'm going to be throwing to not get hooked up. Just some sort of shallow, medium diving crankbait where I can cover water efficiently and not get hung up and really, really efficiently cover water. The next is the good old spinnerbait. This is just a chartreuse bait that I had for smallmouth fishing, but same deal. In the fall, I'm gonna want something that moves fast, you know, the shad grouping up in the backs of coves, fish are feeding on them. This, of course, is gonna imitate a ball of shad. This is a bait I can use in inches of water, in a foot of water, or in 5 to 10 foot of water. You know, I can do a lot of different things with a spinnerbait. Most times I'm gonna be going up super shallow and covering water with it and hitting a bunch of laydowns, rocky shore, stuff like that. Big thing about a spinnerbait that a lot of people don't think about is that if I'm gonna go fish a laydown, I can throw a squareable crankbait on it, or I can throw a spinnerbait on it. The spinnerbait is not gonna get hung up on anything. You know, in the fall, all the leaves are dropping, you got a lot of stuff in the water, weeds might be dying. This spinnerbait is not gonna get caught up in stuff that something with treble hooks would. Now my last 2 options, no matter what time of year it is, where I'm fishing, I always have a jig and a senko in the boat. This is, if I'm gonna finesse fish, this is what I'm throwing on a little 16th or 8 ounce jig head, or if I'm smallmouth fishing, drop shotting, whatever. But this senko, you can do so many things with it. You can wacky rig it, throw it up shallow. You can fish it weedless and throw it in a bunch of weed lines. You can drop shot it. You can do so many different things with this 5-inch senko, and that is just the reason why it's my number one finesse bait. And then of course this jig. This is just, everything's getting caught up in my bag. I'm not even sure the brand, to be honest. This is just a little 3/8 ounce black and blue football jig. This is something I love. Like, you can, with a football jig, you can pitch it to laydowns. You can fish it on rocks. I love a football jig in the fall because a lot of times I'm fishing deeper rock piles, stuff like that. And a football jig obviously is not going to get caught up in the rocks. This is going to be your best bet at not getting caught up in all the junk that you're fishing in. So those are my top 5. You know, if I were to go, if you were to drop me anywhere in the country and say, hey, you're fall fishing today, these are the things I'm taking. I'm taking a jerkbait. I'm taking a shallow to medium diving crankbait, I'm taking a spinnerbait, a jig, and a senko. And those 5 lures will cover a vast majority of the situations I'm found in. And these are my favorite presentations for tackling anything I'm thrown at in the fall. Now, I got about 2.5 hours. Water temps are starting to drop, fall is beginning. I'm gonna try to find some fish on these baits right here. I could very well just skunk like I do a lot on this lake. Hey, I have a fish. All right, it's a good fish. Little smallmouth. All right, he's a chunker. As I was saying, I'm gonna switch to the jig because the crankbait wasn't working. That's a beautiful little smallmouth. I just pitched, again, they're moving to the backs of coves. That's a tiny little cut here. And I pitched that jig to the back of it and didn't really feel the bite. I just saw my line ripping off to the side. So I pulled back and there she was. Hey, just as I was saying, I could get skunked. Now the way I'm fishing this jig and how I usually fish rocks with this jig in the fall or any time really, is I cast up to the shallow side where I want to start, and I slowly, unless I'm like hopping it off the bottom big time, I'm just gonna, well, I'm not saying anymore, good. I'm just gonna slowly lift my rod tip and try to feel every rock as I go all the way down and keep an eye on my line. Because what's gonna happen is I'm fishing kind of like a bluff wall type deal, and it drops off really quickly. And what happens a lot, there'll be big boulders or something down there, and the fish will be sitting next to the boulder. When this jig drops in front of their face or right next to it or something like that, it's gonna be your reaction bite, and they're gonna slurp it while it's falling. And it's gonna be falling on a slack line. It's gonna be really tough to feel the bite unless you're watching your line and see that jump in the line or see it running off to the side. The last fish, I didn't feel the bite. I just saw my line running. He started sprinting off with it, so it really let me see. But sometimes they'll just be sitting next to these big boulders and they'll grab it and they won't really move, and you're not going to know they have it unless you're watching your line and really, really feel that bite. Oh! There he is. There he just jumped. I broke off on one. Ooh, that bugs me. This is 20-pound fluoro. That's why you retie in the rocks. Oh wow, that's fantastic lighting. Well, that bugs me. I hate breaking off lures into fish. I hate breaking off period, and what I really hate is I didn't bring my jig box, because I rarely catch them here on jigs. I was like, you know, I'm just gonna film this short video, probably not even gonna use a jig, probably gonna use a crankbait. I don't need it. Well, got 2 bites on the jig in 10 minutes, And the second one broke me off, of course. So I'm gonna look around my boat for a rogue jig. Don't think I'll find one, but you never know. That fish has jumped twice now. He just jumped again. It's a little 10-inch smallmouth with my jig in his mouth. That's really upsetting. Don't have a jig. Did find this little wobble head, which it's gonna do the same trick. And of course, I just cleaned out my boat, so there's no rogue trailers laying around like there usually are. So I'm throwing this. There we go. He's huge. Ah, come on, buddy. Yeah, I don't really care how big it is. It's another. All I'm doing is fishing. All I'm doing this wobble with this wobble head is fishing it as I would a football jig, climbing it down this little shelf. Oh, look at that. Look at the bald eagle. That's amazing. In Indiana, there is a massive ball of oh! A big smallie just broke this pot of shad right as I was calling it out. Come on, eat the senko, eat the senko. Okay, so this big ball of shad just got busted by a nice smallmouth. Oh, he's still busting it. Oh, I had him. I had him. No. Okay, so there's got to be a couple nice smallmouth right here. And they're busting on this big ball of like 2-inch threadfin shad. They keep splitting it up. Doesn't help that I'm right over them. I'm not exactly surprised I couldn't get one on the crankbait, but that's okay. There will be days for the crankbait. Hope you guys enjoyed my little top 5 list and strange ways to catch a bass that I stumbled upon today. And as always, I'll catch you next time.